Nah, I don't even know if I should waste the video on this, but I figured since we have it here, we sort of make fun of it. I might as well turn on the camera and talk about why this is such a junk knife. What we're looking at is just a rip-off Rambo knife that came out back in the 80s after the Rambo movie came out. We saw these things everywhere. They started out being sort of expensive before the people figured out what was going on, but just basically one step away from garbage. Let's take a look at why that is. First off, we're looking at a piece of sheath, or a sheath that's made out of a piece of vinyl, literally vinyl, no leather here at all, and we're just looking at poor materials, and well, I'm not going to complain too much about the construction because actually I've seen a lot worse. This rivet is in fairly decent shape. However, because of the materials chosen, this knife is just not going to hold up to a walk around the block compared, or let alone any kind of camping trip or anything. The sheath itself, if you were to take this camping, there's nothing at all to stop that blade from just coming right through the sheath, stabbing you in the leg if you were to trip or fall or even just lose your balance, really. This is a dangerous way to carry a knife. Unfortunately, these are usually cheap these days, and people buy them for their kids thinking that they're almost like toys because of their price point. But again, I would not recommend this for really anything except for making fun of it. Down here we've got where it should be a piece of leather strap to go around your leg. It's a piece of vinyl. I guess the good news is that vinyl will break before it allows this to rip through the other vinyl, hopefully. As we were talking there, I took out this piece of stone, and it's a horribly coarse stone. I don't know if I'd use it for, I don't know what I'd use this for, but it's definitely a coarse stone. I wouldn't do it on anything I valued, that's for sure. I wouldn't touch any blade I cared about to this stone. It's in a tiny Kydex little pouch thing, which is kind of neat, actually. I'm surprised it's not just another piece of vinyl. But there is just this kind of weak piece of vinyl with a totally poor fitting thing there. Now, it's not so bad that the thing's going to fall out, but obviously, since that rivet is so weak and poorly designed, you could definitely lose the stone if it just sort of twisted to the side. Now, obviously, again, this is a very exaggerated example of cheap, but look for these kind of features when you're buying a knife. If you see a knife and it's got a couple or more of these features, that's a pretty big exclamation point that you're buying garbage. Companies that value their customers, they value their opinion of their product, they value their own product. They're not going to let something leave a factory that does this. That's just silly. So again, I don't know if it's worth the time here, but I'm going to continue on. That's the sheath, just garbage. Now let's look at this really cheap knife. It's 420 stainless, made in Taiwan. We're looking at a bottle opener back here that cuts almost halfway through the blade. So chain is as weak as its weakest link. Looks like to me that's the weakest link of this blade, and that's about an inch off the hilt. So if you were to stick this knife into anything and turn it either way, I suspect you'd lose the blade right around here. We have a blade, and it looks like someone attempted to sharpen it. We've got a saw on the back, which is basically just some diagonal cuts. They resemble a saw from a distance. That's about the most credit I'll give it for being a saw. And then not much else to the blade there. Again, it's just incredibly cheap. If you held this and were touching it, you would know immediately. It's got a cast aluminum handle with that's hollow, of course. We've got I'm screwing off the back section here, and it's got this globe that you'd expect to see on your grandfather's dashboard or something. Inside of it, we got nothing. So that's just a big, heavy thing that holds this crazy compass. We've got these two rings, and I suspect a lot of people wouldn't even know what those were there for, but I'm assuming they're there for sort of a wire saw. We've got this little emergency packet that's not in any kind of a plastic capsule, anything that even locks. It's in this cheap plastic bag without any kind of zip lock, even not even a zip tie or anything. If we dump this out, I just dropped one of the lead weights on the ground there. So the lead weights for the fishing part of it are not attached to anything. We've got a couple of fish hooks. We've got this kinked up little deal for, wire saw that I suspect because of the kinks would last not very long. We've got a length of monofilament fishing line, which is about the weakest fishing line out there, and it deteriorates with age, so I'm assuming that this is very weak. We've got some matches, wooden matches. One of them has quite a bit of strike surface, but the one next to it has strike surface only on 3 sides. So definitely hit or miss. And they're wrapped in a monkey. Looks like the side of a matchbox that had a little monkey on it. So I guess we got a monkey picture. You can't beat a monkey picture. So the rubber band that was on here, I don't know if you could tell in the video, just crumbled into, looks like sort of like uncooked spaghetti. So now our matches are sort of loose. We've got a couple of these are a couple of lead weights that just have holes through them. So you would just feed the line through there. I thought they were going to be split washers or split weights. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fish hooks that are all exactly the same size. And they're probably an okay size, but you would definitely rather see a couple of small hooks and maybe even one bigger hook, just depending on if you're in the ocean. These little tiny hooks aren't going to help you much. And then we've got a sewing needle, which probably is one of the better things in the kit because it seems to be pretty decent. We've got a residue of a bunch of rubber bands. I'm just going to brush that off the table there. And that's the equivalent of our survival kit in this survival knife. A water-filled compass, globe compass, which, I guess on paper seems like a good idea, but it makes it so you can't use the back of your survival knife as a hammer. It means you can't use the back of your survival knife as a tactical tool. And as a compass, you take it off, and now the back of your knife is hollow. I guess let's take a moment to talk about construction of this thing. The blade goes to here, and then it probably goes in about this far as a screw, and then there's a nut down here. And if we look down into this, and I bring out this light, you can see that down in there is the nut that holds this thing together. And that nut is, right around here somewhere. So there's about this much material, and that much material holding this blade to this handle. So if it doesn't break right there because of the distance that they removed for the or the amount of material they moved for that bottle opener, then you're going to probably just break it right around here from any kind of tension otherwise. Alright, I'm bored. So I'm going to quit doing this video just to show some of the garbage features of this cheap knife. If you see a knife that you're planning on buying has any of these cheap features, highly recommend against buying that knife. It's just not going to be something that you're going to be satisfied with or that you're going to be able to use for any length of time.